The stars had seen countless ages pass, but there were those who remembered even the first light of creation. They were called the Elders. They were ancient beyond measure, old enough to watch galaxies form, rise, and fade. Their voices were slow, heavy with time, and when they spoke, the younger races listened. On a world far beyond the reach of mortal eyes, the Council of Elders gathered. They sat in silence for long moments, their minds reaching across the void. They had seen something that disturbed even them. When one of them finally spoke, the air around them grew cold. "A storm is coming," the elder whispered, its voice echoing through the chamber. "Not of fire, not of darkness, but of will. It will rise from a small blue planet, a world most ignore, and it will spread until nothing can resist it." The other elders nodded. They had seen the same. In their visions, they had watched the fragile creatures of Earth grow, struggle, and fight. They were weak compared to the giants of the cosmos, yet there was something strange about them. Again and again, no matter how many times they fell, they stood up. The elders had seen empires burn, worlds shatter, and civilizations fade into dust, but these beings, humans, were different. They carried inside them something more dangerous than weapons. They carried the will to never stop. The elders called the Council of the Galaxy. Great ships crossed the stars, carrying leaders from every corner. The halls of the council shone with light as beings of all shapes and forms gathered to listen. When the elders entered, silence fell. Everyone knew their words were not given lightly. The oldest elder spoke. "Hear us," it said, voice like thunder carried on wind. "There is a force rising in the shadows of the galaxy. A people small, fragile, and new. Yet they will not break. They will not kneel. They will not stop. They will grow, they will fight, and they will change everything." Murmurs spread among the crowd. Some laughed openly. Others whispered in disbelief. A leader from a powerful empire rose and mocked. "You warn us of a primitive race? They cannot even reach half the stars we claim as our borders. They are nothing but children playing with fire." More joined in laughter. The elders remained silent, watching with eyes deep as the void. Another voice rose, sharper, filled with arrogance. "We are the rulers of empires that have lasted 10,000 years. What can these creatures do? What can they take from us?" The elders answered simply, their voices like a tide against stone. "They can take everything." The room erupted again in disbelief. Many shouted, many jeered, some even turned away, unwilling to listen further. To them, the words of the elders were nonsense. Why fear a race so young, so untested, so small? Yet a few did not laugh. A few sat in silence, their hearts unsettled. They had heard tales carried by whispers from the edge of space. Stories of humans, explorers who dared to go where others would not, who fought storms, hunger, and war not with despair but with defiance. Stories of survivors who turned even loss into strength. But such voices were drowned in the mocking of the many. The council ended with laughter, and the galaxy turned away. The elders did not. When the chamber emptied, they sat in silence once more, their eyes staring into the deep dark between stars. They had no more words to give, only the certainty of what they had seen. Humanity was coming. They would stumble, they would fall, and they would rise again. Nothing would stop them. The elders knew the truth, though none wished to believe. The storm was already here. Humanity was never meant to be powerful, at least not in the way other species of the stars understood power. They were born fragile, with soft skin that tore easily, bones that broke under pressure, and a world full of dangers that could have ended them before they even began. Yet weakness did not destroy them, it shaped them. On Earth, they faced ice, storms, fire, beasts larger than themselves, and still they endured. Each trial forged them, each challenge taught them, and when nature struck hardest, they did not give up, they adapted. While other creatures stronger and faster vanished into history, humans rose higher with nothing but their will to survive. They learned to make tools from stone, to control fire, to work together in groups that grew into tribes, tribes that grew into nations, and nations that became civilizations. They fought each other, they struggled with hunger and plague, and still they kept moving forward. No matter how many times the world broke them, they rebuilt stronger. Unlike other species, they were never satisfied. A mountain was not just a mountain, it was a challenge to climb. An ocean was not just water, it was a barrier to cross. The sky was not empty air, it was a promise to fly. While the galaxy looked down on them as children, they became restless dreamers. They looked at the moon and wondered what lay beyond. They looked at the stars and whispered that one day, they would touch them. And so they did. With fire strapped beneath metal wings, they broke the sky. With machines made of steel, they crossed their seas. With rockets built in garages and deserts, they reached beyond their planet, planting their flag on their moon. The galaxy never noticed them then, for what was one small race climbing into orbit? Yet humans were not finished. They sent machines farther, machines that carried eyes where their bodies could not go, and step by step they pushed deeper into the void. They were still weak, still divided, still burdened with conflict, but nothing could stop the hunger in their spirit. Other species had been born into the stars, guided by ancient machines, protected by empires that gave them safety and order. Humanity had none of this. They rose with their own hands, carving paths with blood, sweat, and the fire of invention. They learned to break the rules of the world itself. Gravity, silence, distance, time, these were not barriers, but puzzles. And when puzzles appeared, humans solved them. As centuries passed, their progress only grew faster. What once took 1,000 years of struggle now took only decades. They discovered engines that could carry them farther, weapons that could defend them, medicines that cured what once killed millions. Every disaster taught them. Every war forced them to grow. Every failure became fuel for the next rise. While other species sat comfortably in the protection of their empires, humans kept running, kept climbing, as if something inside them refused to let them rest. And the elders, watching from afar, knew the truth that no one else would see. Humanity was not like the others. They did not wait for destiny to give them a place. They made their own. Their spirit was a flame that only grew stronger in the wind, and the harder life struck them, the brighter they burned. The galaxy might laugh, the galaxy might ignore, but one day they would no longer be able to. Humanity's rise was not loud at first, it was quiet, like the first spark of fire in the dark. But sparks spread. Sparks became flames. Flames became storms. And soon, that storm would break across the stars. The galaxy first noticed humanity not when they built rockets, not when they walked on their moon, but when their ships crossed the invisible borders of space claimed by older races. A human ship, small and fragile compared to the massive vessels of the stars, drifted into a system watched by an alien patrol. The aliens expected fear, submission, or retreat, but what they saw was something different. The humans did not tremble, they did not beg, they greeted with open signals, voices calm and steady, curious rather than afraid. To the galaxy this was strange, for most young races cowered when they met those older and stronger. Yet humanity looked at the unknown with hungry eyes, not with fear but with wonder. Word spread quickly. Reports of humans reached the councils of empires, stories of a race that crossed the dark not with hesitation but with determination. Some were amused, calling them reckless children who did not know their place. Others were cautious, sensing something dangerous in their fearless steps. The elders, who had warned the galaxy before, remained silent, watching closely, for they knew this was only the beginning. First contact was not always peaceful. In one sector, an alien vessel tried to intimidate a human crew, demanding they surrender their ship and technology. The humans refused, even though they were outmatched. The aliens fired, expecting a quick end, but the humans fought back with desperate courage, and though their ship was damaged, they managed to escape. This shocked many who heard the tale. A weaker race was supposed to bow, but these humans chose death before submission. Their message was clear: they would never kneel. Soon more encounters followed. Humans arrived in trade stations, bringing strange goods and strange ideas. They spoke with honesty that some found rude, yet others found refreshing. They asked questions no one dared to ask, challenged rules that had stood for centuries, and wherever they went, they left a mark. They were not the strongest, not the most advanced, yet they had something others could not understand: a refusal to accept limits. Some empires began to laugh louder. They said humanity was foolish, a fire that would burn itself out. They mocked their small fleets, their fragile colonies, their bold words. But beneath the laughter, a whisper began to grow. Stories spread of humans surviving battles they should have lost, of colonies rebuilding after disasters that should have destroyed them, of explorers pushing into regions no other dared to enter. Slowly, silently, respect began to grow alongside fear. The elders saw this clearly. They saw the patterns, the same ones they had spoken of long ago. Humanity was testing the galaxy not with armies but with spirit. Every challenge thrown at them was met, every wall became a door, every defeat became a lesson. The galaxy began to watch more closely, though many still did not take the warnings seriously. For now, humanity was still small, still growing, still learning. But even in their smallness, there was something unshakable. Their first contact had shown the truth: they would not be ruled, they would not be broken, and no matter how high the walls of the galaxy were built, humanity would find a way to climb them. It was only a matter of time before someone decided to test humanity. In the wide galaxy filled with empires that stretched across hundreds of worlds, there were always those who saw themselves as unshakable rulers. To them, humanity was nothing more than a young race playing with fire, a noisy child stepping into a hall of giants. One empire in particular, proud and merciless, took it upon themselves to remind humanity of its place. They were old, with fleets larger than anything humans could imagine, their ships built with centuries of technology that dwarfed the fragile vessels of Earth. They sent a warning to humanity, a command spoken with arrogance: kneel, pay tribute, or be crushed. Many in the galaxy waited for the humans to bow, for this was how it always happened. A new race challenged the order, and the old powers crushed them before they could rise too high. It was the natural way of things, a cycle repeated across the ages. But humanity was not like the others. When the message came, demanding submission, the humans did not kneel. They answered with defiance, their words simple yet filled with iron: we will not bow. The Empire laughed. They sent a fleet to Earth's colonies, expecting an easy victory. Their commanders spoke with certainty, promising their rulers that the humans would break quickly. But when their ships descended, they found no surrender. The humans were ready. Their fleets were small, their weapons less advanced, their soldiers inexperienced compared to the hardened warriors of the Empire, yet they stood their ground. The battle was fierce. Human ships shattered under the firepower of the Empire's cruisers, and whole colonies trembled as enemy forces pressed forward. Losses mounted quickly, and many across the galaxy thought this was the end. But something strange happened. Instead of breaking, instead of giving up, the humans fought harder. Every ship lost became fuel for their rage. Every fallen soldier was honored, and their sacrifice gave strength to the living. They fought not only with weapons but with determination, using clever tricks, desperate strategies, and courage no calculation could predict. Where other races would have fled, the humans turned and struck back. They hit supply lines, sabotaged weapons, and fought from the shadows when they could not face the enemy head-on. Their resistance was wild, messy, and costly, but it was unyielding. The Empire had expected a quick victory, but days turned to weeks, and weeks to months, and still humanity fought. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. This was not normal. No young race had ever resisted an empire for so long. Even in defeat, humans seemed to grow stronger. They learned from every battle, adapting faster than anyone expected. Their weapons improved, their fleets rebuilt, their soldiers hardened. What should have been their destruction became their training. The Empire grew frustrated. Their leaders demanded to know why these fragile creatures still stood. Their generals promised that the next strike would end it, yet every strike only pushed humanity to rise again. The elders watched in silence, knowing that the storm they had warned of was unfolding before everyone's eyes. The galaxy had thought the humans were small and weak, but now they were beginning to see the truth. Humanity was dangerous not because of their strength, but because of their spirit. Even when outnumbered, even when crushed, even when hope seemed lost, they refused to break. And in that refusal was a power no empire could understand. The first challenge had been given, and instead of bowing, humanity had answered with fire. The galaxy, for the first time, began to wonder. If this was only the beginning, what would happen when humanity truly learned how to fight? The war between humanity and the Empire dragged on longer than anyone had expected. At first it had been certain that the humans would fall, their fleets too small, their weapons too weak, their colonies too fragile, but as time passed the certainty began to fade. Every defeat that should have broken them instead became a lesson, and every lesson turned into new strength. Human engineers worked night and day, studying wreckage from battles, learning from enemy technology, and building weapons that were never supposed to exist in their hands. They were fast, faster than anyone thought possible, turning scraps of lost battles into the foundation of victories yet to come. Human soldiers grew harder, fighting in conditions no one else would survive, adapting to alien worlds, alien climates, and alien tactics with a stubbornness that seemed impossible. They made allies where they could, even among the oppressed races ruled by the Empire, spreading hope that the giant could bleed. This hope began to shake the galaxy. For the first time, people whispered that maybe the elders had been right. The Empire, frustrated and enraged, sent larger fleets, determined to crush the resistance once and for all, but their arrogance blinded them. The humans had studied every move, every pattern, every weakness. They laid traps where no one expected, sacrificing what little they had to deliver blows that echoed far louder than their size should allow. A single human ship, outnumbered and outgunned, destroyed an entire enemy convoy by turning their own weapons against them. A small colony, expected to fall in days, held out for months, resisting with such fury that entire battalions were lost before the Empire could claim victory, and even then the humans burned everything so nothing of value remained. The galaxy watched as the impossible happened again and again. Humanity should have fallen, yet they refused, and with every act of defiance their legend grew. Slowly the tide began to shift. The Empire was bleeding resources, their fleets stretched thin, their commanders humiliated by victories that slipped from their grasp. Humanity, once mocked as weak, now stood as a thorn that could not be removed. They learned faster, fought harder, and adapted quicker than any species the galaxy had ever seen. Where others would have surrendered, they grew stronger. Where others would have accepted defeat, they turned defeat into fire. It was no longer a question of if humanity could survive. It became a question of how far they could go. In the quiet chambers of power, rulers of other empires began to whisper their fears. If humanity could resist the strongest of them all, what chance would anyone else have to stop them when they were truly ready? The elders watched in silence, their ancient eyes seeing the storm they had warned of long ago now gathering speed. Humanity, once ignored and underestimated, was no longer a spark. They were becoming a flame, and that flame was spreading. The turning point had come, and the galaxy, whether it admitted it or not, would never be the same again. The galaxy had believed humanity would only resist for a short time, but now it was forced to face the truth that the young race was not simply surviving, they were changing. Each battle hardened them, each loss taught them, and soon they were no longer fighting with desperation alone but with skill and precision. Human engineers were no longer just copying alien technology, they were improving it. Weapons stolen from the Empire became deadlier when rebuilt by human hands, engines were redesigned to push ships faster and farther, shields were strengthened with new ideas that no one else had considered. Their fleets grew not only in number but in power, built from the lessons of every defeat and every victory. Soldiers who once fought with fear now carried unshakable confidence, moving through battlefields with strategies that baffled even veteran commanders. They adapted to every environment, frozen worlds, burning deserts, toxic atmospheres, and turned each into a stronghold. Their enemies could not understand it. Where did such fire come from? Why did these fragile beings refuse to bow when logic demanded their surrender? The answer lay in the very nature of humanity. They had never known safety, never known certainty, never known peace for long. Their history was filled with struggle, war, famine, and disaster, and every time they had risen again. To them, this war was nothing new. It was only another test, and tests were meant to be overcome. The empire that once mocked them now began to fear them. Their fleets, once considered invincible, were ambushed and shattered by smaller human forces using daring maneuvers no machine could predict. Colonies that should have been crushed rose again after destruction, rebuilt stronger and more defiant than before. Rumors spread across the galaxy of human prisoners who escaped impossible cages, of soldiers who fought on even when wounded beyond reason, of fleets that refused to retreat even when outnumbered 10-1. Humanity was no longer a nuisance. They were becoming a nightmare. The elders watched and knew the chains of the old order were breaking. The galaxy had been ruled for ages by empires that believed strength came from power, size, and fear, but now humanity was showing a new truth, that strength came from the will to never surrender. Races long oppressed by the empire began to take notice. Some quietly offered help, smuggling supplies or passing secrets to human allies. Others rose in rebellion, inspired by the sight of humans standing unbroken against impossible odds. The galaxy was beginning to shift, and at the center of that shift was the unstoppable rise of humanity. They were not asking for permission, not waiting for acceptance, not begging for a place among the stars. They were taking it. With every battle won, every chain broken, and every wall torn down, humanity moved forward with a force no empire could resist. The old powers began to tremble, because they finally understood what the elders had warned long ago. Humanity was not just another race, they were the storm that nothing could withstand. The fall of the empire that had first challenged humanity shook the galaxy to its core, for no one had believed such a thing was possible. Worlds that had been under the empire's control for centuries suddenly saw its fleets scattered and its leaders broken by a race that was never supposed to rise so high. At first many dismissed it as luck, as chance, as nothing more than a rare spark that would fade. But then the stories began to spread further and further. Colony after colony that had been conquered rose again with human help. Rebellions long crushed ignited once more when humans stood at their side, and even entire systems that had once laughed at Earth now whispered in awe at their defiance. The truth was spreading faster than light. Humanity could not be stopped. Other empires, once proud and secure, now found themselves staring at the growing flame with unease. They sent spies, they sent envoys, they even sent warnings, but none of it slowed the humans. What began as survival had become something greater, a movement that stretched beyond their own people. They were not only fighting for themselves anymore, they were fighting for all who had lived too long under chains of fear. Wherever they went, they shattered the old balance. Soldiers of alien races began to desert their masters and join them. Scientists shared knowledge freely with them, drawn to their endless hunger for progress. Merchants risked everything to trade with them, knowing that where humans stood, change followed. The galaxy had lived for ages under the same order, the same rulers, the same endless cycle of dominance, but now that order was cracking, and the cracks spread wider with every human victory. The elders sat in silence as they watched the prophecy unfold, for the words they had spoken long ago were now undeniable. Humanity had become the force they had warned of, the will that no barrier could hold back, the storm that swept aside all doubt. And still humanity had not reached its peak. They were only beginning to understand the depth of their own strength. They built alliances not with promises of power but with trust, and while empires ruled by fear struggled to maintain control, humans won loyalty through courage and sacrifice. They bled for others, they stood beside those who had no hope, and they showed again and again that no matter the cost they would rise. Slowly, the laughter that once followed them in every council vanished, replaced by quiet dread. Leaders whispered behind closed doors, afraid of what the future would bring, afraid of what it meant to live in a galaxy where humanity could not be bent or broken. And yet beneath that fear there was something else, something far more dangerous to the old ways. Hope. Hope that the galaxy could be free. Hope that the chains of countless ages could finally be broken. Hope that the storm that was humanity would sweep away not only the empires that mocked them but the very idea that anyone could rule forever. For the first time in countless ages, the galaxy realized the truth. Humanity was not just another race stepping into the stars, humanity was the change itself, and nothing, not fleets nor empires nor the weight of history, could resist them. The galaxy had changed, and every race knew it. Where once the old empires stood proud and untouchable, now their banners lay in ashes, their fleets scattered, their rulers silent. And at the center of this storm stood humanity, a race once dismissed as fragile, reckless, and unimportant, now proven to be the fire that no darkness could consume. Across the stars, stories of their rise were told in hushed voices, some with fear, others with awe, but all with certainty. Nothing could resist them. The council of the elders gathered once more, their ancient eyes reflecting the truth of what they had always known. Long ago they had spoken, long ago they had warned, but the galaxy had laughed at their words. Now there was no laughter, only silence, as every being waited for what the elders would say. The oldest among them rose, its voice carrying across the void like thunder through the stars. "We warned you," it said. "We told you of the storm, of the fire, of the will that would rise from the small blue planet. You mocked us, you doubted us, you ignored us. And now you see. Humanity has come, and nothing stands in their way." The chamber was silent, the weight of the words sinking deep into every heart. Some bowed their heads in fear, others in respect, for all of them had seen with their own eyes what humans had done. Empires that had ruled for 10,000 years were gone, chains that had held worlds in slavery for centuries were broken, and hope that had been buried for ages now burned bright in every corner of the galaxy. The elders continued, their voices calm but heavy with truth. "They are not the strongest, yet they overcome. They are not the oldest, yet they endure. They are not the most advanced, yet they rise beyond all limits. Humanity does not stop. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not break. This is their nature. This is their power. And this is why they cannot be resisted." Around the chamber, the leaders of countless worlds sat in silence, the reality undeniable. For ages they had believed that power belonged only to those with the largest fleets, the strongest weapons, the longest histories. But now they understood that true power lay elsewhere, in the will to stand, to fight, to rise again no matter how many times the universe tried to crush them. Humanity had shown them this truth, and nothing would ever be the same again. The elders looked to the stars, their voices softer now but no less certain. "The storm has only begun. Humanity has taken their first steps into the stars, and already the galaxy trembles. Imagine what will come when they reach their full strength. Imagine what will happen when their flame spreads to every corner of the void. They will shape the future, they will shape destiny itself, and all of us will live in the world they create." Their words echoed, and though some feared what was to come, many felt something different, hope. For in humanity's rise they saw not only the end of old powers but the beginning of something new. A galaxy where no empire could rule forever, where no chain could hold the spirit of a people, where the will to rise was stronger than the power to dominate. Humanity had proven that nothing was impossible, and in doing so they had lit a fire that would never be put out. The elders spoke their final words, a prophecy and a truth in one. "Remember this, humanity cannot be stopped. They are the storm. They are the fire. They are the endless will. And the galaxy will never be the same again."